Boy, these guys are so cute, especially when they're playing. And they can play rough when the other party's awake. Harry's just putting up with it. I was hired to work with these two guys because they were getting out of hand. And I'm just showing you a few pictures of some other horses. This one was attacking, biting, and kicking people. This one, same thing, rearing. Girl had to wear a helmet to work with it. So cute though. This is a miniature horse, rearing, biting, bit the girl in the back of the neck. So this is just showing you, this is a little foal I worked with. He was a stud colt. They're not born wearing a halter. He hates all this stuff on his face. They're not born given to pressure. So why do we have to halter break them? Well, this guy had to be led in and out, and he had already had a stint at the vet's. His neck on the other side shaved from the IVs, and he evidently wanted to run off because he wouldn't lead, and they'd usually just lead the mare out and the foal would follow, but this guy didn't want to do it. So this was my first visit with them, and the second visit at the end, I had the owner leading, but this is still the first visit. And after we took him outside, just a little clip, but you can see from the handling he got from the people and the vets, because they can't take their time, they just kind of cup them front and back and doctor them, that he had learned all kind of things. And foals are foals, they rear, they kick out, but when they're in hand they have to be safe. They strike out, I meant to say, and they're not born knowing how to lead. And he really pushes into me. And mature horse, they're trained to give, trained to yield, but that all takes teaching. They're not born. And horses, young ones, can flip over backwards. Luckily none of the foals in this video did, and I've had raised my own foals, and none of them have been this difficult, because we get it done right from the very beginning. Teaching them to give to pressure and to lead in a small area, in that larger area. So all kind of things can happen, and that's why people, they get struck or kicked once and then they get a little apprehensive around these foals, and next thing you know, the foals are striking fear in the humans and just out of control. And that's why I get called, usually they're a lot bigger. He's doing that on purpose. Usually they're a lot bigger than this, and that's a lot more dangerous, because they've gotten away with it for quite some time. And you can do them in short spurts, give them a little break. And here's the owner on the second day being able to lead her little guy. And
get back in his
shoulder. That's the last I've seen of them. So
give him a little rub.
They're still okay.
Look up. Good.
Well, they go off to the track. They're standardbreds. Now, these next two, this guy was the rough one on the first day. When I came back a week or two later, he was the good one, and didn't require as much time as the other one. The smaller of the two, the young girl that I worked with previously, refused to even handle him. So, and she's a horse person. She seemed very knowledgeable rider and very teachable when I worked with her. We gave the horses lots of breaks and to let them chew on it and get better. Tapping them in the chest is much kinder than yanking on their face. There's a little troublemaker here. The little troublemaker, he was the better. The lighter one, he was really good. And then just within a week's time, or whether it was 2 weeks, because this was 3 years ago, he had gotten, again, so bad that nobody wanted to touch him at all. So people get all bent out of shape when I'm training these foals, thinking I'm mean, using my whip and all this stuff, or throwing a fake kick at them, or a fake bite at them. They're cute, but they can become dangerous really quickly. It's a lot to take on a foal, to train a foal. If you want to breed your mare, this wasn't the case here. The owner just wanted the mares, and she went on to sell the babies. They came bred, so she didn't say, oh, I'm going to have these cute babies, you know. They're a lot of work. So here's Trouble.
I just did.
The second visit, and the first one I did a lot of work in the stall, because I had to do a little bit of work in the stall first to get them to wear their halters, pick up their feet. I worked with their feet, get them to pick up without kicking, without resisting. So I did work with the owner the very first time, and the next times just the kid was there to work with. So I'm going to try to voice over this and explain. When you hold steady pressure, you have to release immediately. You don't want to maintain that pressure. We're trying to teach them to give to pressure, so steady pressure, release when the foal's coming along. I try to look where I'm going and not at the horse, but you know, you need like 5 or 6 hands to do all this stuff. And I want to get him to where he'll just lead and not require the butt rope. My right hand pushing his neck is helpful to push him, as opposed to trying to pull his face. But he's fresh and he's quick, and it's hard to stick with him. So when he backs up, I try to back up with him and stay with him, and then get my eyes up and tap him until he goes forward. And again, it's very hard to stay with them. So I'll do a counter move. I pinched at his hindquarters and his flank area, and I want to push him away from me, because they know, even at this young age, that they should not be driving a human's feet. Well, they don't know unless a human pushes them out of the way and doesn't let them crowd them. Mature horses know that. Many of our horses become dull. I corrected him here for the rear, and that's a fake kick. I didn't kick his legs. That's something he understands. But many of our horses are dull because we drag them along by their face. I want to teach them to lead on a loose line, but this is just rudimentary halter breaking. So steady pressure, and when he gives, release. If I walk straight away, he's not going to give to pressure. So if I just pull him off balance a little bit and release that line when he's coming forward. This kitten, he's doing Spanish walk. Release that line when he comes forward, and then he'll learn to get off the pressure. But he's, again, in the week or two between the visits, he just learned all these little moves to intimidate people. And, you know, he's using them, and they're going to use them until they don't work anymore. Until he gets shut down and then says, oh, well, it's not bad. It's a lot easier to just lead. I pinched him here right and do a snapping motion with my pinchers on his flank area, to where it's a lot easier just to lead on a loose line and hang with me. They walk alongside their mothers and mirror their mother's movements many times when they're not off playing. So this is just what I'm asking them to do, walk with me. Walk when I walk, stop when I stop, but, you know, it's just, I'm doing a biting motion at his neck because you see he understands that he crossed over nicely in the front when I was directing him away and to the right there when I did that. I'm just trying to relax him a little bit in between. And these foals learn really quickly once all these things don't work, you know, in the next visit to walk along nicely and stop trying all the things that they tried. But he's already learned to go backwards to avoid the pressure. And usually just people give up or just drag the horse along on the face. Here I'm motioning for his hind end and I'm not stopping till it yields right there. He's chewing there, little submission before his next tricks. Usually see people won't have that loose line, but I teach them from the start, and they'll just grab them by the throat. And when you grab that chain, or the snap rather, right under their throat and drag them along, your feet are much too close to their feet. Your hand is right under their mouth. This is where you get all kind of biting going on. So I don't hold them tight, choked up. I give them a looser line. We had given them a break, and then we're going to take them up again and work with them some more. The mothers of these foals were present, and I think this is the only time that she had called out to them once, but they really didn't care what we were doing because these foals were terrors to them. I was leading nice for a split second and then he kicks out. So this is just a kind of a teaching video. I'm not advocating do what I do. At least you can see how tricky these guys are. And if you're planning on having a foal, realize how difficult it is. It's very rewarding, raising foals. But they don't come halter broke, and they're pretty smart. They use that little walnut of a brain they have. They utilize every inch of it, I think. And there's nice for a second. I have to constantly get back in position. And then he wants to speed up around the corner every time. So thanks for watching the video. If you don't like the way I train, there's plenty of other videos to go look at and leave it, instead of leaving all the nasty comments. I know I put myself out there for that, but Try to remember I'm a real person.
So whenever he comes forward, there's no pressure. So if you do circles,
And these horses went on to be sold to the same owner, and
pretty soon they'll be able to come straight forward.
I hear they're doing well.
But right now it's not happening. They come off this side.
By moving off to the side, you can get a foot unstuck, and remember when they're going forward, loose pressure. And the other thing is these foals can get loose and drag a rope along and get it tangled in their legs. There's so many hazards. You can use a shorter line, but I'm pretty handy at grabbing them if they start to take off and redirecting them. So they never did, but that's another thing that can happen. This is another way to tap them and have them come on a loose line. So rubbing them from wither to rump when they're going forward, and if they stall out, just a little tap to get them to go forward. Timing's everything. Release of pressure when the horse gives to pressure.
Actually, let me give the applesauce first. Good baby. Oh, yummy. Now for the nasty stuff. I don't know. Ooh. There. Alright, you can finish.